Hey guys, back again with 2010's remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. This was a review requested by my good friend, my homeboy, my brother from another mother. Yeah, you got it. James Johnson, aka My Crappy DVD Reviews. Only joking, my DVD reviews. Anyway, so basically, this is a remake and I'm going to get into that in a minute. Let me tell you the cast. It stars Jackie L. Haley, who's quite a good actor. I've got to be honest, he was in Human Target, which was a good show, which got cancelled in its second season, sadly. And season 2 never came out on Blu-ray. Why hasn't it come out on Blu-ray? I want that second season. I've got the first one on Blu-ray. Why isn't the second? Carl Gallagher, who plays Quentin Smith, he's Bart Gunn from Smallville. That's what I remember him as. You know. Rooney Mara, she played Nancy, which upset me a bit. Katie Cassidy, we all know Katie Cassidy by now, the queen of remakes, who loves to be butchered. She was in When a Stranger Calls, dead. Black Christmas, I think she's dead. Can't remember now. I think she died. And this, she died. And now she's in Arrow. Arrow's probably her biggest success so far. Thomas Dekker, Kellen Lutz, who's in Legend of Hercules, Clancy Brown, and Connie Britton. Ooh. Now, the movie basically starts off with Dane sitting in a diner. Dane, who's played by Kellen Lutz. And basically, he's drifted off and basically is in Freddy's land, if you get what I'm saying. And basically what happens is he follows this woman and he goes, hello, hello. And they ignore him, and then Freddy turns up, he gets out of the dream, but he's got a cut in his hand. So he's got a knife in his hand in case he ends up back in the dream. Chris walks in, played by Katie Cassidy. And they start talking. He says to her, I can't go to sleep. They'll kill me. You know, the usual stuff. She walks off, and basically he ends up in the air with a knife across his neck. He stabs himself in there like that. But it's because that's what Freddy's done to him, basically. We all know the story. We've all seen the other Nightmare on Elm Street. We know the story. So, basically, when he kills you in the dream, you see it in reality as a person. It looks really, really freaky. So, also in that diner, we meet Quentin, Nancy, and Jesse. It turns out that Quentin has a thing for Nancy. Because he's a bit of a Nancy boy. Oi! Hey, Nancy boy! Hey! Anyway. So, his friend Jesse's like, you want to ask her, you got anything else you want to ask her? And he goes, no. And all this. And they leave. And basically, through the film, you follow Chris most of the time. Kate Cassidy, and you think, oh, she's the main character, is she? Because a big majority of this movie is people the kids investigating what happened to Freddy Krueger. Why is Freddy Krueger after him? And it's not because they're the kids of Elm Street. It's because they told the truth. So don't ever tell the truth on a paedophile, because if you do, he'll become a burn victim, and he'll be in your dreams killing you. That's what it kind of felt like. I was like, where's the Elm Street bit? Where's Elm Street? Anyway, so Freddy Krueger's coming from like the dreams. He just pops up and then disappears because they wake up again. And you're like, okay, this is a bit cheap tactic. And that's the part where I went like this. For about 20 minutes. And then I woke up and I had to rewind the film again. Because I was like, come on. So basically Chris is there like, and she sees all this stuff and she's in class. And she's like, I'm awake. Basically everything goes black around her like dead. And she looks and there's Freddy Krueger talking to her. And that's when you see the makeup of Freddy Krueger, which is absolutely appalling. I have to admit, I did like Jackie L. Haley's voice. A lot of people didn't. But I thought it was more creepy than Freddy Krueger's original voice. because it had that kind of dark tone to it. That was one of the positives of the movie for me. The dark tone of his voice, you know, it was really, really dark. And it sounded like somebody just wanted to, you know, do really horrid things to you, you know. It reminded me of that voice when you were a kid and you hear like an adult talking and they're being over nice to you and you know they want to do something else to you and it scares you and you want to run away to your mum and dad and you just keep thinking about it. Even when you grow up, you think about that guy or that woman who said those horrid things to you, but at the end of the day, they might not have been horrid, but it might be in your imagination from where you were a kid and you saw something differently. Or it could have been. But I remember that voice, you know that voice, everyone has a voice that creeps them out. And that voice reminded me of that. Freddy Krueger's voice didn't creep me out, but it had that tone. So, it's me, she wakes up, and she goes to her boyfriend, Jesse. She goes, I'm Jesse's girl. Yeah, she was Jesse's girl. Nobody like Jesse's girl. Anyway, so she goes to bed with him, and basically they just sleep in the room. And basically that's where Tina's death happened. If you remember the original film with Tina, where she ended up on the ceiling, and then she gets like she's cut on the ceiling, and she falls, and the blood kind of goes. In this, nah. Bounce, bounce, bounce on the wall like a ping pong ball. Boing, 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 boing. And then slashes down the front and she just falls. And you're like, there's no artistic, stylish point of view to this movie. There's no art to it. In the original one, there was some art to it, if you get what I mean. Because they had proper special effects. Now this CGI rubbish. So, she dies. And I'm like, oh no, Kate Cassidy's dead again. That's 3 for the kill meter. Screw you, Kate Cassidy. But anyway, she dies. Her boyfriend then ends up in prison. Yep, just like the guy in the first one. I can't remember his name. Ain't that bad, I can't remember it. And you know what I mean, the bad guy. Not the bad guy, the bad boy. That's right, let me get his name up quickly because I always hate doing this. I know it. There we go. Let's get up quickly. Quickly, hurry up. Quick. Rod? Yeah, that's right, it was Rod. Well, Jesse ends up in prison like Rod did. In the cell. And basically, he doesn't die the same way as Rod, which to be honest was disappointing. Because to a big point, you kind of thought it was in Nancy's mind a little bit, you know? Especially Rod's death, because Rod kind of hung himself. But he didn't. It was Freddy Krueger pointing the thing around him and hanging him. And even though we saw that in the movie, it could have been in her mind. Do you know what I mean? In this, he ends up in the cellar thing, like in a boiler room thing. Freddy cuts him. He's hanging upside down. He says to him, Freddy says to him, did you know after the heartbeat dies, there's about 7 minutes left, so we've got 6.5 minutes to play. And you're just like sleeping again. Alright? Look at me. You can tell I've been asleep. My eyes are glazed over and I look absolutely thin. I look like I'm one of them. I've been taking sleep pills. Yeah. That's what it feels like right now because the movie sucked. So anyway, going back to it. So basically, then you end up with. I'm going to cut this review not short, but I'm going to cut past a lot of the story. So basically, what happens after that is Nancy and her boyfriend, or Quentin, who ends up her boyfriend, like every bloody remake will end up boyfriend and girlfriend. Hey, they decide they're gonna search and find out what happened to Freddy Krueger, like follow on where Chris left off. And what happens is Quentin's swimming in a pool, like da 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 da, you know. And he ends up in a dream where he ends up coming out. He's on pavement, and you see Fred Krueger, aka Freddy Krueger, being chased by parents in cars. He then runs into the building and they go, "Come out, Freddy, come out wherever you are." And they basically throw the thing in and he burns. Now, I'm just glad they didn't do what they did in number 6. Because if anybody remembers Freddy's Dead, if I'm correct, I think that's the right one. Hey, Freddy Krueger gets these little, like, swimming fishes around him. Going, "Ooh, Freddy, we know you're bad. You want to live forever. You want to do our bidding." And they go in his body. And then he ends up Freddy Krueger. That's what happens in Freddy's Dead. And I'm like, they ruined the movie with that one. In this, he comes running out the building on fire, and obviously he's Freddy Krueger at that point. And then Quentin wakes up. So I guess it's kind of like showing Quentin what happened to him. But you're like, why does anybody care about the backstory so much? Because we all know the backstory. But in saying that, a new generation probably doesn't, because they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to watch the 80s movies because they suck. Because they ain't got CGI in it." You know, I don't know. Anyway, so then basically he tells her, and they find out that Freddy Krueger was a paedophile. And basically there's this thing where her mum, Nancy Holbrook's mum, Gwen Holbrook, Dr. Holbrook, says to her, "Let me tell you the story of how this paedophile got started in a place in Elm Street." Yeah. And I felt like singing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song, and like, this is how I started as a paedophile. I did it now, so here we go. You know, I was like, anyway. So basically, it says that he lived, I guess, under the school in the basement, and he used to play with the kids all the time. And he said to Nancy, he said, "If you're a good girl, do you want to see something? Do you want to see a secret?" And it's basically him taking her down to down the basement to tie her up, I guess. And you're sitting there going, and then it turns out that the reason he's haunting the kids, like I said at the beginning, it isn't because they lied on him. It isn't because they're from Elm Street. It's because they told the truth. They said he was molesting them. And you're like, yeah, they really did him wrong there, didn't they? Telling the truth on a bloody disgusting, evil, horrendous thing to do. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? I was like, you know, he can't say Freddy Krueger had reason to have revenge on kids telling them parents, can you? I mean, I guess people like that have a different sense of mind, but I was like, you know what I mean? Anyway, so basically they end up going to the pharmacy, because what happens is they need more drugs to stay awake. And that's another problem with this movie. Nowhere in the movie do I feel like they were sleep deprived. Dean at the beginning I felt was. But the rest of them, it's just like, oh, you know, I'm acting like I'm stoned. And Quentin, when Nancy's in hospital, he steals adrenaline shots. And he goes, "Oh, you're going to shoot yourself with adrenaline because if we fall asleep, we're screwed." And you're like, uh-huh. And that's when it reminded me. There's a thing in the movie where it says if you stay awake for 3 days, your brain goes into like its own nap while you're awake, and you can end up in a coma, right? And you can end up dead or in a coma, you know, if it gets really bad. Well, Nancy Havelankamp in 1984's version said to her boyfriend she was up for 7 days. So how did that happen? Why did she go in a coma? But apparently in real life that actually does happen. You do end up in a coma, possibly. So going back to this film. So I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, get your adrenaline shots out, Bart Gunn, Quentin. Because I'm sitting there going, eh. And he stabs himself in the leg with some water. And he's like, woohoo, I'm awake. And he tells her to, and she says no. She says, I don't want to risk my life. And he's like, but you're already dead if you don't. And he's right, because Freddy wants to get her. So he ends up in an argument in the pharmacy because he goes in there wanting pills, and she goes in there and Freddy attacks her and she ends up with a cut. Fast forward to some interesting stuff. They get to the school place. I'm guessing it's the school place, and they find the underground bit where we used to take the kids. And she realizes that if she grabs hold of him, she can pull him out the dream world. Something that Nancy Havelankamp in 1984 has realized. And so she goes in there. And somehow Quentin ends up in there and he gets beaten up by Freddy like anything. He goes, "You can't save her, Quentin. You're useless. You're useless." And you're like, okay. And then she basically goes, she goes over him. What? And oh yeah, it's about to. Oh yeah, in the dream, he when she's way down all the way, she ends up in this really all this blood stuff, right? And then she falls through the ceiling with this really bad CGI. She falls and she's completely clean, right? And she's got this little kid's outfit on, like when you're a little girl and you've got those little dresses on. She's got one of them on, and you're like, wow, he really is sick, isn't he? So, just as she's about to go, "Goodbye, Nancy," and get with the claw, Quentin stabs her with an adrenaline shot right in the heart, and you're sitting there going, she didn't want that, Quentin. She wakes up, Freddy Krueger's out the dream. Quentin she goes, "Get him, Quentin, get him." Nancy goes, "Get him, Quentin, get him." And as Quentin goes to hit him, he ends up getting stabbed really hard in the arm and so forth, thrown across the room. So then basically Freddy gets his hand chopped off with the glove by Nancy. Nancy goes, "It's hard, isn't it? It's horrible." And she cuts his head off. And you're like, yeah. Then basically you see him in an ambulance. And then back when her mum takes her home. I did like the end though. I like the bit where mum puts the keys down. As she moves back in front of the mirror, Freddy moves behind her and grabs hold of her through the mirror, pulls her back, and the mirror shuts. I did like that because that was a different effect to the original where the mum went through the window. Not through the window, through the glass bit in the door. I did like that. It was different. But this movie, as a remake, overall, sucked. I hated it. I disliked it. I thought it was bad. The good things about it were Jackie L. Haley's Freddy Krueger. Not because I liked his whole movement or anything, but I liked the voice. That was the only thing I liked about Freddy Krueger, the voice. And a lot of people say it sounded like The Dark Knight, but to me it sounded better. Like, it would have been great if his voice had been like this. "Well, hello there." That would have been better. I did like the characters. I thought the acting was really hit and miss. I have to be honest, I fell asleep twice in this movie. I even went upstairs and slept in bed for about an hour halfway through the movie because it was putting me asleep. Because there was nothing that great in it. The CGI wasn't that great either. I don't know why everybody has to do CGI. Go back to basics when it really was great. Get Tom Savini in. Or whatever. I know some of them are dead now, but get people like Tom Savini in who actually did fantastic makeup effects. This CGI stuff is horrible. They could have done a lot better on Freddy Krueger's face in this. I know a lot of people have a problem with it because it's not Robert Englund. And Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. Let's be honest, he is. But I think Jackie L. Haley did a fairly good job at trying to be Freddy Krueger. You know what I mean? And I just didn't like the Nancy. Nancy, played by Rooney Mara, to me, was nowhere as good as Heather Langenkamp. I mean, she didn't have the sex appeal. She didn't have that cuteness. She didn't even look like she was awake. That's another thing. None of them looked like they'd been up all night like they did in the 1984 movie. In the 1984 movie, you actually sympathise with them because they actually looked like they were having troubles. In this, they just were like, ugh, And you're like, and other than that, I can't really recommend the movie. If you've watched the originals and you enjoyed them, stick with them. I mean, I always have this thing where I'm like, if I've watched the originals, I have to watch the remake. Because I watched Black Christmas, I watched When a Stranger Calls, and I've watched other stuff. Which I can't remember at the minute because I'm tired from the movie. And some of it's good, but remakes overall are a real letdown. Because you watch them and you're like, yeah, this is not good, is it? This is awful. So, I won't recommend it, but like I've said before, if you watch the others, I guess you need to watch the remake, kind of like, because you need to see how great. I tell you what you need to do. If you watch this, you'll realise how fantastic and how expertly done the original one is. Because the original one is really, really clever and really good. As much as I think number 2 in the original series is better, in some ways. I do enjoy number one a lot more than most of them, and this, in my view, if this had been number one, I'd never watch the films again because the movie's horrendous. I didn't like the kills. I didn't like the characters. I felt no relationship to them at all. And to be honest with you, the deaths were just like, oh, come on. And all the deaths that were repeated from the original one were better in the original one than they were in this one. So, I'm sorry to admit it, guys. Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you this. But A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake from 2010, is an awful movie. But it's got Katie Cassidy in it, and she's the queen of remakes. I hope she's in more remakes soon. Because she isn't the best actress, but she's alright in Harrow. TV series actresses are normally guaranteed to be not as good as they, in this. But I guess nowadays that's different because everybody who's a great actress or actor now seems to be going into TV series more than the movies. Because they get paid more now, I guess. I don't know, but either way, don't watch it unless you want to see Katie Cassidy die, or you've seen all the others and you feel like you need to watch this one. Because I know, like me, I felt like I needed to, and never again. So, thanks for watching, guys. I give this a 1.5 out of 5, just because I like the voice, and I like the music at the end. Dream, 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 dream. All I know is I need to dream. Say my voice bad. But, yeah. So, 1.5. Avoid it unless you really feel like you need to watch it, because it's an awful movie. And, yeah, that's it, basically. So, thanks for watching, guys. As always, take care and have a lovely day.